no, he was an independent dentist. There's a guy on a bicycle in front of us, just so you know, kind of in the middle of the road. No, that actually was working on my half-assed done tooth in the middle of the pandemic. I think he's looking to make a left. I don't know what the hell he's doing.
This is an adventure in a little bit of a nerve-wracking ride. What we're trying to do is get into Boston, not using any highways. And Boston, if you're not familiar with it, is not an easy town to travel in. But we decided to try to do it. Some helpful elements is that we both have headsets on, the gear that allows you to talk back and forth. We recently purchased new ones because our old ones were cutting out a lot, and these seem to be working okay. Now, husband here is on a DCT NC700X. There's no shifting involved with that motorcycle. I'm on the Street Twin. This is a 2016. So it's a lot like the newer ones. Oh, here he goes. He does that to me all the time. Goes through the yellow. And I have no idea where I am. I have no sense of direction. So now I'm on the wrong side of the street. It's fine. We can communicate, and I do like the communication devices for this reason, because we can kind of talk to each other, which is helpful when I'm headed to someplace that I don't know where I am. This humming that I'm doing, I notice that when I'm nervous, this is something that I do. I hum to myself whenever I feel afraid. You know, one of those.
I'm behind you now. People are just, it's so wild. Like, the nice part about the pandemic is that it's driven people outdoors. So there's more outdoor life.
Do you agree with that? I thought so. I mean, I just see people outside more with the pandemic. This is taking place the last few weeks just before the governor intends to open.
Support local businesses, shop and dine, and stay safe. It's kind of an oxymoron.
It's a little bit of an oxymoron. I mean, you can't, if you're dine takeout, it's fine, but you can't really go inside of a building.
I mean, you can order out.
I agree with myself on that point. So we're in a town south of Boston on a typical Washington street with a lot of traffic. And the point of this really is to get a sense of how well both bikes, the DCT without having to shift and the well balance of it, there I go, humming again, and the Triumph Street Twin, which this is a 2016, but the bike isn't that different. They added some horsepower and better brakes or whatever, but honestly, and I'm not an expert in motorcycles, but the brakes are fine for me, and the point that I really want to show on this is that it's really good at balancing in these sort of tight situations, and as we get closer to the city, and we'll make you go through the whole thing here. As we get closer to the city, you'll see that it's really good at handling hairy parts of Boston. This is a tough situation we're in right now, and I'm going to communicate to him that I don't like it.
We're going to go straight, because the same thing's going to happen.
This is a light that should have a delay that allows people to take a left, but we couldn't, and he wanted to take a left. I don't know where we are, but he will get us through, and he's excellent with directions. So we're going to go straight instead. I don't know if that was for me on my right shoulder, but we did change our minds, and I stopped signaling, which is fine. All right, let's kind of go a little deeper into the city. This is, I don't know how many miles this town is outside of Boston, but it's a ways, and it takes a while to get there because I have no interest in taking the highway into Boston. But I do want to get into Boston using the motorcycles for a variety of reasons. Oh, here we are. We just hopped over this hopped away. Now, this is a part which I thought was interesting because I've never been down this way before. This is kind of like new territory. So this left here is officially kind of Boston. Now, this little highway is not really a highway. As you can see, it's a dual lane. And honestly, in a car, it's a little terrifying. It feels claustrophobic. It's beautiful. It's not beautiful now because it's almost the worst time of year where there's no snow and there's no leaves. Now, where we are is officially called the Arbor Way, and I just thought I'd be very unnerved by this road because it's so close to the city, and there's this terror of thinking that people might cut in front of you or something like that. But the strange part about this ride is that I actually felt better on the motorcycle than I usually do when I take this road in a car. The disbelief I have in even saying that strikes me as very odd, but you have just a little more room. I know there's the danger of someone sideswiping you, but I didn't feel intimidated by this. Now, this might be because I'm a bicyclist and I've done a lot of bicycle riding in the road, so I'm used to cars on the left side of me, especially, just whizzing by, and so that doesn't unnerve me too much. But I found this surprisingly unnerving, or not making me nervous, I should say. It wasn't unnerving. And it was just kind of easy, and it surprised me. Now, part of it, too, is because whenever I go to Boston in a car, I have a terrible sense of direction, GPS or not, and so I'm a little bit unnerved when I head into the city. Although, side note, I've noticed that Apple directions are getting much better. I have an Apple Watch, and so I'm not as unnerved as I may have used to be. So it was a pleasant ride, surprising to me. So there's two things about that. One is that the motorcycle itself, the Triumph, rides really easy. It's just an easy bike that I'm not thinking about the motorcycle or controlling the motorcycle or much about the motorcycle. I'm really listening to my husband in front of me, who's very good with directions and kind of leading the way, and watching what's going on. The other thing about the communication system is that I think it helps protect each other. We kind of watch each other's back, so to speak, and so I really like that element of the communication devices as well. I know a person who I highly respect that does not use them because he feels they're a distraction, but I don't feel that way. I feel like they help you, like, oh, they're stopping or someone on your right. When you're a bicyclist, you use things like car right, car left, slowing. There's a lot of communication with bicyclists, and when you do that same kind of talking as a motorcyclist, when the two of us are together like this, it's helpful. We can really help each other out. All right, this is just before the city. So we've taken this sort of twisty, roady thing, and I've gotten to this point here. I don't know if I skipped it for some reason, but there's also rotaries. Now, if if you're not from the Boston area, you may not be too familiar with this aspect of rotaries. We just have them everywhere, and they can be unnerving if you're not sure how to use them. And I thought that being on the motorcycle, because they are terrible, you have to sort of cross lanes while going in a circle. Look at that, there's a bicyclist. And it can be unnerving. But again, we've done the rotaries down at Cape Cod, and there's rotaries on this road, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It just didn't feel terrible. And you can hear the bike clicking down and getting ready. I just, by the way, had to replace my gearbox. My motorcycle just had that gearbox issue, which these liquid-cooled Triumphs do have an issue with. I don't know if they fixed that, but Triumph is kind of in denial about it happening, and mine did. I needed to replace my gearbox. It seems to be working fine now, but it did go south, very south. The bike now, I got it at 1,500 miles. It was 19, as I said, it was at 19, right? Shows how old I am. It's a 2016, and I got it with 1,500 miles on it. I have almost hit 10,000 miles. I think that the gearbox went real south around 7 or 8,000 miles. Hopefully it's not going to happen again. I've heard reports that some of them do go south a second time, but I'm hoping that mine doesn't. But other than that weird gearbox thing, which people have complained about, and I don't think it happens with every model and every bike. It might be one of those manufacturing things if you get one that does it, and more than should have it. But other than that gearbox thing, this bike has been really fun to ride and easy to ride. And I learned how to shift on this bike. So for me to say it was easy is something, because I'm saying that without any experience. So see how the cars are everywhere. Now people obviously are big on motorcycles heading into the city. And you would think that we would be terrified here. But I'll tell you, the Triumph does the slow, um, uh, I forget what they call it, the slow riding so well. And this is the piece too where parking lot practice really helps, because you want to be able to pick your feet up and slow down without duck walking, as they say. So this is works out. It works out pretty well for us. We're going to be coming up. Oh, here's a rotary. I didn't skip them, so this
So
is
again,
fun.
like 12 o'clock, it's just about so.
Yeah, I'm asking him where is the exit. So if you're not familiar with
Difficult because we're on the outside lane.
this is a rotary. I don't know how familiar all of you are with this, but this is outside of
Oh
Boston.
yeah, either side, right? Because it doesn't matter which one we pick, we end up in the same spot.
So I'm getting instructions, which is at 12 o'clock. It is like a clock. So here we are, we're approaching the rotary, and you do have to watch your left. It will always go, now that I think about it weirdly, it'll always ride counterclockwise. So see how there's people on my right? It's terrifying, but it isn't. It's one of those weird things. Now I might have to cross over if it's a 12 o'clock thing, so there's a guy behind me, I have to be aware of him, a guy in front of me, and others getting onto the rotary. Oh, there's my exit. So I have to go this white car, and oh my God, get me out of here. I mean, it is weird. I don't understand. I know other parts of the country do not use those. Oh, and then, it was one way the whole way, and suddenly here, this is two way. So it just changes from one way to two way, which right after the rotary, which I don't know if that's the most brilliant way to design a road, but that's how they designed it. And though it looked and seemed terrifying, it kind of wasn't. And I think that has to do with the fact that couple things. The motorcycle's easy to ride. We do a lot of practice. We're not great motorcyclists, but we practice, so that helps. That's helpful. And my husband's really good at directions, so I have a lot of confidence. So I don't have to use a lot of brain power to figure out where I'm going. And to be honest, I've ridden this road hundreds of times. It's how you go to get to the hospitals. The hospitals are kind of back here at Boston's hospital. See this area out here? Isn't that pretty? Right out there. It's just beautiful road. It's not. There's a highway 95 or 93 that gets you into Boston. That's much less more scary. It's car oriented. But this is the old way to get into Boston. And it's just prettier and nicer. It just takes 1,000 years longer. But it's a beautiful ride, and we were surprised by that. We have kids in the city, and we'd kind of like to visit them on motorcycles sometime. And this worked out. They're in college, and just wanted to see that once school starts up again. Once the building's open, we'd like to see if we can visit them. So on a whim, on a Saturday, we just decided to go in, which is crazy because this is a Saturday. To put it in perspective, this is a Saturday. As things are opening, I don't know exactly the day it was. It was like April something, a Saturday in April 2021. So the world is starting to open up here, and everyone's coming out, and so there's a busyness to it. This is not less busy than usual. It's a little bit less maybe, but it is a Saturday, so the traffic is pretty good. I'm not sure exactly what I am saying to him here. You can't hear what I'm saying to him. One of the things about the new GoPro I bought is wonderful, but the audio is terrible. It just doesn't. It doesn't take a microphone anymore. It's just weird.
Longwood?
Oh, so there's some confusion I'm asking him here. See that tall building in front of us?
Are we taking up the little parking lot with green leaves? You're doing that way?
That's the right that I'm asking him about. So if we're going to take this right, we're going to have to move over.
In fact, my stuff actually always has me go the other way, but I don't remember. And honestly, it's a little bit prettier than the right at the garage, but I don't remember how to do it.
So we are not using GPS. We are just using his memory, which is really good. If we wanted to go on a longer trip, we might have to do GPS. We do have a mount for my motorcycle. I haven't mounted it yet for a phone. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't want to be distracted in any way while riding a motorcycle. Isn't it a beautiful bike, though? It really is. It's just so pretty. I'm a pragmatist. I'm not really necessarily into great-looking things, and I ride this thing, as I say. I don't polish it. I love this guy. I think I've told the story before where I was riding on my bicycle and I came across a motorcyclist, and this guy had this beautiful silver Harley, and a fellow next to him that was a buddy of his says, yeah, he spends more time shining it than he does riding it. And I just love that expression because, they're really meant to be ridden. They're not meant to be too precious. But it is a beautiful looking machine nonetheless. But it's also wonderful to ride. So it's kind of got looks and it's got ease of riding. It's not a high maintenance thing. So here we are. So you can see how, like, traffic coming at you, two lanes, traffic someone on your right, possibly. It's unnerving. But again, I really think that for me, bicycling has really helped me not be too unnerved by this. I really think that helps when you've been bicycling. That looks like a residential house, doesn't it? I mean, we really are just outside the city now. We're probably technically in the city. In fact, we're in something
No, she's taking a test there.
coming up called
I believe
the
this is
Jamaica
Boston's
Way.
house at 11.
I think we might have already been past the Jamaica Way. It's the Arbor Way turns into the Jamaica Way at some point, but it's kind of twisty and pretty and all the same. All right, so rather than have you wait for traffic like we did, we're back on the road again. I can't really see my speedometer. It looks like I'm going, I don't know, 30 miles an hour, I guess. So, and it's right along with traffic. It's not unnerving. Hubby looks further away from me than he actually is because of the fisheye effect of the GoPro.
You have a black car on the corner further.
And our communication devices, much to my relief, stayed clicked together, so that's good. When they fall off, you have to bring your hand to your head and do a click. I'm used to that, so I don't get unnerved by having it, but I made sure too that I put the device, the communication device, on my left-hand side so that I can hit the buttons as needed. Oh, I haven't gone past we're still in the Arbor Way. We're not in the Jamaica Way yet. So you climb up this little hill here, and as you can see, the Boston roads aren't the best. See that? Like, that's the other thing. You have to really pick your line. And I wish I had dirt biking experience. It probably would help me ride through the shitty of Boston. But I don't. But I do have, as I said, bicycling experience, and we have to pick our lanes like that because there's a lot of junk that's on the right-hand side of the road. So Boston's roads aren't very good, as I don't think most major cities necessarily are. So we come in through this piece of it, and now we're just there. Really, we're in the city. We're just in the piece that doesn't have the most famous buildings like the John Hancock building. These are where the hospitals all are in Boston. And when you hear me humming, that just means I'm nervous. I just found that out about myself by watching these videos. So here is Brigham and Women's Hospital, which is very famous. This is called Longwood. And Longwood is where all the hospitals in Boston
No, I know
are.
it's a parking lot, but I have no idea like what to do. I know where I am. Like, I've been to the BMW. I used to bring my mom here all the time, although I can't see where I used to bring her.
I'm talking about my mom. She, about 20 years ago, had a major heart attack. And she didn't last very long. She was older, 80 when it happened. But it was the nice thing about living within range of Boston is you do have access to perhaps the best hospitals or some of the best hospitals in the world. And they were wonderful to her. And it was wonderful to have her get that level of care. So I used to bring her in that way because, again, I'm not, ooh. Yeah, I hit that. I don't remember what that was, and I've looked at over and over again. And I couldn't see it even in slow motion. I couldn't find that ditch. But so it is nice. He does. There he goes. He does it again to me. Just goes with the yellow. Thanks a lot, hubby. So anyway, so it was nice. The hospitals in this area are great. So he's going to pull aside and wait for me, which I don't like, because I feel like that endangers him to some extent too. But he knows that I'm such a moron when it comes to directions that he's going to wait for me. He's very good that way, make sure that I'm okay. And this is too, like the rights people are going to take. You just have to be kind of aware, make sure your mirrors are set okay, and that you can see stuff, and that you know how to pull out when the light changes, because people are going to, it's the city, right?
On my corner, a couple of them, so I might have to. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably looking at some,
Okay.
and so like you have to kind of like get going because see the whole bike go up and down just because the guy behind you is going to want to move because people are impatient in Boston. I so you see the road quality isn't great, and I think this is what see that. Whoa. I mean, you're kind of used to it again when you're riding a bicycle. He was determined, wasn't he? But again, we weren't unnerved.
Aware in this world of a sideswipe because people are crazy.
Yeah, you have to just be aware, but it's not terrifying, and it's something I would do again, which surprises me. We even thought about going partly to the city to see how unnerved we were, but neither one of us were. Well, there's Dana-Farber. Dana-Farber is a very famous cancer center. A lot of ambulances and such go through here, although oddly on this trip, there wasn't a lot of ambulances. Usually that's all you hear when you go through this area.
Easier to do on a motorcycle.
It is.
It's a little less, weirdly, it's a little less horrifying.
I don't know why that is. I don't have an explanation for this. I mean, I find it less unnerving than in a car. Maybe because I could see better. Like I know where I am. Like I know if I get hit, it's going to be a lot worse. But it's weird. It just felt like I have more space. You know how there's no room, but you have a sense of maneuverability. That might be the John Hancock in front of us, although I may be lying about that. No, that's not. Boston has a beautiful tall building called the John Hancock. It's all glass, but that's not it. I used to work here at a radio station called WRKO when I was very, very young. It used to be in the street dead ahead of us. So here we are trying to make a right. So I worked down that street there on the left when this is in the 80s. And yeah, back in the day. And he'll correct me because I worked there for like years, and he's telling me, no, you didn't work there, you worked on the next street over. That's my sense of direction once again at work. But it was, the city it was nice.
But we're going to come in the wrong angle, right?
What we're trying to get to a particular spot Boston's full of its one ways, and he's really good this way too. He'll figure out how to get us around. We're trying to get to a particular area of the Fenway where the Red Sox play.
Behind the bowling alley, do we know how to escape from there? Okay. We can do that. We can do the bowling alley.
So
Yeah,
there's
that's not that bad, though, right?
and we've been lost so many times in this area with the cars that it's not too bad, but at least he can remember that where he was lost, and I won't. Look at the roads. It's not that bad though. And I think the other thing, and this isn't to be too bratty, but when you ride a thin bicycle with a little seat, will he go through that? I'm going to go too. Bye. I'm just going to catch up this time. I'm not uncomfortable riding on a smaller seat. Like, it doesn't bother me because I spend so many miles on a bicycle that this is luxury to me, even with the bumps. And you can get your legs out under the Triumph, so you can lift yourself up a little bit. Like, I'm old, so I don't really dare stand. I've stood on it with the stick stand down just to test it, and I don't think I have the courage to fully stand, but I can lift myself up for a bit just to not hit the potholes. Like there's one right down there that you can see. So now we're going to make a left, and you're going to see Boston's Fenway Park from a different angle, not from the famous angle, but from an unfamous angle. This neighborhood is like where the colleges are. It's a place called the Fens. On your right where those buildings are, I think that's the Prudential building. I'm not sure, but I think so. That whole area on the right-hand side is reserved land. I don't know if it's reserved, but it's parks and such. And they built Fenway, and then they built Fenway Park as a way of entertaining people. Now here is not untypical. Boston left. Like, hubby, I think, is a little too tight with that car. I think I decided to kind of stay back so I could see, and then make the turn this way. Now this is Fenway. This is the rear end of Fenway. I think you can literally see the signs of backwards, but this little frontward sign here says Fenway Park, and they're doing like all this construction back here that's just crazy. It's been going on forever and a day, but it looks like they're putting new buildings in. And Boston's just a permanent construction project. It just never ends. There was a boxing place, I think, on the left here. I went to somebody who was doing a fundraiser. They were in a boxing match about a year or two ago, over on the left, which was fascinating. Like a lot of great stuff. I mean, Boston's a great city. And then through here is we're trying to finagle our way. Hubby is great at this. He knows how to get us in and out. But we're going to make a mistake, I think, which will be funny. And you can actually watch us make a mistake. But as you can see, both bikes handle really well in this kind of, you know, less than ideal circumstance with Boston streets, trying to find your way around. And it wasn't terrible. I just don't understand why it wasn't terrible. And it was kind of fun in a way. And now we're going to try to maneuver around this one way. This area is confusing as hell. So if you ever want to see a Red Sox game, you will be confused. Even if you don't think that people who are from the area understand it, because they don't. I'm not from Boston, but I've gone to Boston 1,000 times, and I don't understand it, but I'm bad. All right, so this is a weird episode. Here we are in this corner, and then there's a cop that's trying to back up or something, and I said, just pull out and get out of his way a little bit. And this is the fence.
I always forget. Is it right? Is it right or is it straight?
For school, we're trying to find an apartment for the kids, and they run like 1,500 is impossible to find. Like they're 15 to 18 to 2,000 a month. And this is even post-pandemic. Like they said that prices were going to go down, but they haven't. It's just, I don't know what the attraction is, quite frankly. I mean, Boston's cool, but is it $2,000 a month cool? I don't know. So, so we're going to do a little dipsy doodle to get around it. But this is going to be cool. Oh, he's explaining to me because we missed a turn or something. We made a mistake. But it's not the end of the world for him. For me, making a mistake when lost is the end of the world. He can adjust and he can fix things. I'm in oblivion once I make an error. So what you'll get to see, though, is nice. You're going to get to see the Citgo sign, which is kind of famous, too, in this area. That's part of the whole Fenway look and feel. In fact, they were going to tear that sign down many years ago, and they decided that it was a landmark. I don't think it's made out of the same material. I think it used to be made out of toxic lighting, fluorescent lighting or something, but now it isn't. So this is a little scoop, and I remember when I was young and worked in this area, I used to make this mistake a lot, but I used to be lost and be late for work. That's how it used to happen to me, and that was pre-GPS days. So look at this road, look at my poor bike.
And we have no idea?
I'm laughing about something, and the thing is humor too. Like you have to have a sense of humor about your life. You can't be mad at yourself.
I did a couple times, but I was lost once in my car going to RKO, this very intersection.
I remember that, and I don't know why. That was probably 40 years ago, and I was late for work, and you're not supposed to be late when you work for a radio station. But it was crazy. Boston's always been crazy. I don't think they've tied this road since then.
You can't. That's impossible. It's physically impossible.
Oh, my husband's saying something crazy.
They angled it so it's impossible to even get in there that way. It's like that. You've never done that because it's not physically capable.
I don't know why I'm arguing with him. I should just let him have it. This is like relationship 101. He's saying he went into some angle where one of the apartment buildings are. I should just let it go. Oh, there's the Citgo sign. See it? Isn't that nice? That's the Citgo sign that has to do with Boston. It's just a Boston icon. But yeah, I should have so let him have that. Sometimes he says things that I should just let it go. All right, so I do. No, I'll be fine.
I'm going home 95 south.
I actually had a dream about being lost in this corner because one of the apartments we're trying to get to is in this corner, and I got lost once on a blue bike. A blue bike actually is going to pass us. They're like the bikes you can get on your app, bicycles, and I got lost on a bicycle here once, like a year ago, or 2 years ago now.
That Sycamore fuck bridge that I'm going to go over 10,000 times before I get to the house.
There's this bridge that I went over 3 times, the Sachem Bridge. I went over it like 10,000 times. That's another famous landmark since the Big Dig.
No.
The Big Dig was a way that Boston really improved
I
itself
think
over the
that's
past few years. On my motorcycle, I'm laughing. It's hot because it doesn't like all this slow riding. But watch on the right. There's going to be two bikes that come up before this light changes. There's one, and this is going to be a blue bike. And those are the ones that you can get and rent off an app, and you just punch a couple of buttons and you go. And I'm telling you, a bicycle ride are brave because you have to pedal. When you're on a motorcycle, you can just get out of there, but bicycles have to work at it. So when I got lost here, I took that right just because that's what I would do, and be crazy. Okay, so now we're here at a lot.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Um, uh, that we pulled into that you need a parking thing to park at, but we were just there to take a little bit of a break and turn back around.
Red light. When I looked up,
This is a weird place to come out of, though.
well, it's a problem. You spin your body around a little better.
I saw this really giant man once at this corner right there. He was like huge, and uh, he was just dancing. It was very artistic.
One of this trip is easier on a motorcycle.
Um, uh,
Kind of funny. I mean, you never
s-
think so, but it's like kind of is.
it kind of is. I don't know why it kind of is, but it is. But it's a very interesting part of the city. It's the Fens, and it's just interesting. It's not. I don't. Maybe not the most. Well, maybe it's kind of famous because of the Red Sox, but it's an interesting area, and it's been built up a lot. Someone who lived here back in the '80s told me that it wasn't the safest place back then, but these days,
Yeah.
Boston is just gentrified.
Right.
That's why the $2,000 rent for one room. Unbelievable.
I don't feel good about eating anyway. Like even outside.
Yeah, we were thinking about getting something to eat. I mean, we rode all the way in, we turned around, we now we're headed back out, and should we get something to eat? And I think at this point we both have our first shots, which gives you pretty good protection. But I'm not. If I'm unfamiliar with where I am, I'm not going to go get something to eat. I wouldn't go inside anywhere, but with the processes to get something um, outside, even I'm not familiar with this area. I don't know. I think I've been to 3 Red Sox games in my life, so I'm not real familiar with the Fens. Look at that bike jump up and down. I have to laugh even again. I laughed when I was on the bike and laughing now just watching it. Look at it just hopping up. Um, and again, you have to have a sense of humor about things. Discomfort isn't my enemy. Like, honestly, a bicycle is so that if you've been on a bicycle and rode 30, 50, 75 miles on a bike, which is my upper limit, a bicycle, this is like luxury, even though it's what do they call this bike? Not an open-faced bike. I'm thinking of food right now. Uh, a naked bike, and it's not that uncomfortable. That little fly windshield is perfect. It takes out just what I need. Um, and then we just turned around. So we did it. We went to Boston. We didn't go downtown where like the Boston Public Library is, the major library, that area. We go to a book show every fall there. Of course, it didn't happen in 2021. I mean, sorry, 2020. But oh, then there's the new bike lanes too. They give bike lanes. That's why I tried bicycling in this around town, but I got lost. I don't know what I'm talking about as far as COVID goes. Yeah, like I own a scooter too. Some of you, I talk about my 150, and that would work brilliantly here too. Although honestly, the potholes in a scooter can be jarring. and this area does have its share of potholes. But of course, a scooter would control itself so well through all this. But short of a scooter, this street twin really is easy to handle, and it can handle a little bit better the huge holes like this. Although a scooter you just jump on and go. With this, I do have to wear a little bit more protective gear and such. I wear protective gear with my scooter, but honestly, like I don't necessarily, especially if I'm just doing a short trip, put on like the whole like the earplugs and the high boots and all that. I might just, and you don't really, I don't wear the earplugs when I have the scooter. But anyway, so this has worked out for us. It was a really good trip. As you get a little bit braver, you might cut out of traffic like that, like he just did. This thing here, this building, I call it the parking lot with the weeds. There's something up with that. Now, here we go straight. I don't know why we don't take a left there, because I think that's the way I always used to go. But this piece is great. So we just headed back up the Arbor Way toward, probably on the Jamaica Way right now, or close to it. And then we'll just go home the same way you saw us go. And I won't take you all through that. But I guess the point here is just to see that this motorcycle, the DCT 700X, not a lot of shifting, very comfortable, very nicely balanced. Hubby's motorcycle worked well. And the Street Twin, again, is just such an easy motorcycle. And as I say, I'm not an experienced rider. I got my license in 2015, I think, and started driving in 2016. Rode a scooter for 2 years, and then I got this in late 2018. And as I say, it's got about 10 grand on it, almost 10 grand, and I got it at 1,500. So I probably put about, I don't know, 8,500 miles on it. And it's been really easy to learn to shift on and everything. Like I did, and I do, practice in parking lots, but it's just, I think part of it is I hate to say it, it's not me, it's the ease of this bike. It's really accessible, which is nice, to have that. Any particular skill set I have? No. I would say that driving a bicycle has been very helpful for me in the streets as a motorcyclist, because you have to predict things on a bicycle. So that piece is helpful. I'm a little stronger maybe, but I'm an old woman now. But I can kind of muscle this bike around without much of a trouble. But it's so low and light anyway. It wouldn't take, I don't think, that much strength to handle. So it is kind of fun, like just blast it out of there and like, and it's not a speed bike, but it's for me it's fun, to sort of go. And now we're on our way home, and I'm very happy. Like I'm just so thrilled that when the kids go back and maybe get an apartment for them, and school starts up again, we might be able to visit them on a Saturday like this. In the Fens, where all the colleges are in that area too, and just say hi. And we have found like this little parking spot that will take the motorcycles. I did go out and buy a light cover that we can take with us, so people won't be tempted to fiddle with them while we're walking around the city. So we're gonna cover them. I ordered that recently. I'll let you know how that works out. But it's just a great way. And wow, I mean, look at this ride. So that's about it. That's a long trip into Boston, the Street Twin, how it handled the roads of Boston, the aspects of the low quality of the streets in some of the areas of Boston. It's able to take the bumps. It's able to take the roadways. And it was a really enjoyable ride for us. I can't say that usually traveling in Boston is fun or enjoyable, but we had a great time that day. We were kind of proud of ourselves because, it is a little unnerving. As you can see, there's not a lot of motorcyclists out here, but it's actually easier than it looks. It's not saying that you don't have to be careful. Of course you do. You always do. But it's not impossible. It's just, it's you don't have to be Rossi or somebody with extraordinary talent to do it. We're of mediocre talent. We're very serious. We protect ourselves. We wear gear. We practice in parking lots. But we're old and we're not experienced and we're not like, the best motorcyclists that ever lived. I mean, we're just...
Pretty much. It's over here to the right.
It is pretty. We're just average people who try to be careful and try to practice and try to gear up. But it's doable. It's so doable. And as long as I think, not that I even feel qualified to give any advice at all, but I think people do try to get into like these heavy horsepower, just giant machines, and you don't need them. But these two bikes, which are kind of 700 and a 900 and low geared and not fast, they work great from everything we've done so far. And we just love them, and we ride them all the time because they are accessible. And I think that's the most important thing. You got to sit on something that you can handle and feel comfortable on. But know that you just have to practice too. So that's that. All right. See you later, and hope you enjoy your riding too.